The MCU is now officially in Phase 6, and the first film to kick off this phase is none other than Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four. Now, when it comes to the Fantastic Four, they've had some interesting variants over the years in the form of movies. We have the one all the way back from the 90s. Yeah, that was something. Then we got the Fox duology films. And they weren't awful. I thought they were fine. I enjoyed them enough, especially as a kid, seeing as I grew up watching those movies. I thought they were fine. Nothing special, nothing amazing, nothing fantastic, but still enjoyable enough. And then they rebooted them again. And what we got is one of the worst comic book movies I've ever subjected my eyes to watching. It was torture. This movie is appropriately named by the fans Fant Four Stick because it does not feel like the Fantastic Four. They ruined everything. So that brings us here. The MCU creating the Fantastic Four. Disney's Marvel took their swing at it. And I'll be honest, I was hesitant and very skeptical about this just because, well, number one, we haven't had that amazing of an interpretation of this group. And number two, I was never the biggest Fantastic Four fan. And that's just a personal preference. I like them enough, they're fine. But I was never the biggest fan. I was always more into characters like the X-Men or Spider-Man or, anybody else but the Fantastic Four. Ghost Rider, Daredevil, all of them, fine. But the Fantastic Four, they never connected with me as much as the other characters. But I went in, tamed my expectations, and I gotta say, this is the definitive version of the Fantastic Four. It's the best version we've ever got. Does that mean it is a 10 out of 10 movie? Well, let's review. As always, we're looking at the positives, the negatives, and then my final thoughts. Let's start with the negatives first, because there are some things that I did not enjoy about this movie that I want to start with before I get into the things I really enjoyed about the movie. Our first biggest negative is simple. This is the Fantastic Four, so you would expect all four characters to have equal amount of screen time and everyone get their own arc. But sadly, that's not exactly the case. There are two characters who get a lot of screen time. You can probably figure out who. There's one character who gets a smaller arc, but an important one. But then there's the fourth character that gets pushed to the side and just doesn't get much to do. And I really wish they would have given more time to this character. This is no spoilers, by the way. You are safe. So I'm not going to tell you who that character was, but I was disappointed in that aspect. Another negative is there are some uses of CGI in this movie that do not look good. Okay, they look ugly. They look real ugly. They're not nice to look at, and it's very noticeable when you see it. My next negative, look, I'm not the biggest Mr. Fantastic fan, but he does in the comics, and heck, even in the original Fox duology, have some really unique uses of his powers. He could turn into a wheel, a blanket, wrap himself around enemies and all that. So, I like to see creativity with those powers. The stretching power moveset offers itself to a lot of creative and visually interesting features. Unfortunately, this movie, again, not trying to spoil anything, but if this is a spoiler for you, fine. Spoiler warning. Minor spoiler. But unfortunately, this movie does not really do much with Reed's powers. You don't get anything more than just an arm stretch here, an arm stretch there, some leg stretches, some body stretches. There is one scene, however, where his stretching is interesting to look at. I'll say that at least. But for the most part, they play it pretty safe. His powers in this movie are more about his mind, and I'll talk about that later, than it is about his stretchy abilities. Finally, my biggest negative for this movie, this is just a personal preference thing. I did not like the ending of this movie too much. I'm not a fan of how they chose to end the movie. And I'm not talking about the very last scene, I'm talking about the end of the conflict that they have to deal with. I'm not the biggest fan with how they ended it. And that really sucks because you need to stick a landing, and that's something people remember the most. Not how a movie began, not about what happened in the middle, but how the story ends. And that ending just soured the movie for me a little bit, I'll be honest. But that's about all the negatives I got. Let's actually talk about what I enjoyed from Fantastic Four First Steps. First, this movie is beautiful. Besides those awkward little CGI moments here and there, they're really small. Trust me. The set pieces, the aesthetic of the 60s futuristic vibe, reminded me of something like the Jetsons, kind of. All of that, everything, the city, the space shots, everything is done beautifully. This movie is pure eye candy. It's great to look at, visually pleasing, and you will remember plenty of scenes specifically and solely because they look so damn nice. Also, speaking of the aesthetic, having this movie set in an alternate universe was perfect because it made the story unpredictable. The Fantastic Four are having to fight Galactus, and since this isn't the mainline MCU universe, we don't know what's going to happen to the heroes of this story. Will they make it out? Will they not? Can they save their planet from being destroyed? Or is this universe doomed? No pun intended. Is this universe doomed? That is great because you're on the edge of your seats every time some conflict happens. Setting this in an alternate universe, a beautiful one once again, but an alternate universe nonetheless, amazing choice. Truly, the best thing about this movie is the alternate universe. However, you could make the argument that the cast is the best thing about this movie because everybody who plays a main role in this film, the Fantastic Four, the Silver Surfer, and the Big Bad himself, which we'll talk about in just a moment, all did phenomenally. They crushed it. They understood the assignment. The writing for these characters was exactly what it should be. They understood the source material. They understood the characters, and the actors performed perfectly to the criteria of those characters. Two standouts are Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby. Let's go to Vanessa first. I love this mother vibe they gave her. This mother, this loving mom who is pregnant, then has the baby and wants to protect the baby at all costs. I love that. I love the use of her powers. I love this conflict that she develops in the movie. With some of the other teammates even. Everything about her is great. She's a loving, caring mom, and it shows. Pedro Pascal, I was skeptical. Very skeptical. I was like, he's a great actor. I love Pedro Pascal, but I don't know if I see this guy as Reed Richards. I am eating crow right now because he is Reed Richards. They nailed it with Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards. His intelligence is where he shines. Pedro is so good at his ability as an actor. Anything he was saying, whatever science jargon, mumbo jumbo nonsense weird stuff he was bringing up, I believed every bit of it because he made me believe every bit of it. Reed Richards has the most intelligent mind in this universe. He's one of the most intelligent minds in the Marvel universe in general, but you really see that. He's always coming up with plans. He's always coming up with scenarios and possibilities. Even if some of those possibilities aren't the right thing to do, his job is to come up with all possibilities and pick whichever one is the best possible outcome for his team. Because without him, they may not have succeeded. Speaking of them succeeding, let's talk about what they had to succeed against. Galactus! No, 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 not you. No, no, that's a storm cloud that, no, we don't bring that up. Much better. Galactus is worth the price of admission alone. I'll let you know right now, he's not in the film too much. He's in the film just enough. But when he's on the screen, when he is talking, when he is being Galactus, his presence commands your attention. He is done perfectly. This is the villain that I've grown to love as a child to an adult, and I finally see a comic accurate representation of Galactus himself. The Silver Surfer, she is great as well in this movie, does her job perfectly. I keep saying perfectly because, again, the cast nailed it. But Galactus, he's just a joy to watch on the screen. They added some sound effects to his voice, some sound filters and stuff. It worked great. It is a tiny bit confusing at times to understand what he's saying when you start adding multiple effects. But being in the theater with the enhanced surround sound, oh my goodness. Galactus commands the attention of everyone watching, and he commands every scene. He's the standout of every scene in this. And the final climactic battle, while I don't think is the greatest climactic battle, it is good enough. But Galactus is threatening, menacing, and kind of cruel. You'll know what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie. But I loved seeing Galactus in this movie. One of the reasons why I love Galactus, though, is because of the score of this film. The Fantastic Four First Steps has some of the best scores in the MCU right now. Two standouts. The first being the Fantastic Four theme. It's triumphant, it's heroic, it's fantastic. The second standout, and my personal favorite score of the whole movie, Galactus' score. It is loud, imposing, threatening, bombastic. It is just incredible. That was so badass of a score that it enhanced Galactus' performance that was already incredible. A good score can make a great movie even better. But this isn't a good score. This is a great score. And a great score takes a movie to even higher heights than that. Whoever thinks that this was not a good score, and I've seen that a few times, I don't know what else to tell you. This score was incredible. Finally, my other biggest positive is just the sense of urgency and suspense that this movie brings, because since, again, it's set in an alternate universe and Galactus is coming, it is up to our team to come up with whatever plan they can as a Hail Mary, because that's what it is, to stop this guy, to stop their world from being destroyed. And you don't know if they're going to make it. You don't. The sense of suspense was done so well because you feel everything these characters are going through. This grief, this worry that, oh my goodness, this is something we've never fought. This is something we've never been up against. Nothing like this has ever opposed us. And I loved it. I truly loved it because the Fantastic Four, for the first time in their universe, they're outmatched in every aspect. except maybe Reed and some of the other Fantastic Four's intelligence. That's the only hope they have, is using their intelligence to come up with a plan. And let me tell you, the plan they come up with is crazy. I mean, it is crazy. It is not the safest plan, but they don't have a choice. They have to make this not safe, but completely risky plan work, or it is all over for their world. And because of that suspense feeling, I did enjoy this movie quite a bit. How much did I enjoy it? Let's go to the Nays Net grading scale and find out. As you know, we've got the core four aspects: story, acting, cinematography slash visuals, and rewatchability. Because again, I believe if a movie isn't rewatchable, then it's not that good of a movie. But the fifth aspect for this film is not action, because again, I don't think the action's the greatest. And okay, that is another negative, but it's not too big of a negative. The other aspect is suspense, because that is the main theme of this movie, is suspense. Let's get to grading. I'm going to give the story an 8 out of 10. I think it's a serviceable enough story, but it's elevated by that sense of urgency once again of what do we do? How do we come up with a plan to stop this? And we have to tell the people, we don't know if we can save you. The baby storyline is also pretty well done. Seeing a loving mom and a loving dad go through these emotions of what they have to do with this son, because it's Franklin Richards, if you didn't know. And he's a very powerful baby, and Galactus wants him. But that was in a trailer or sneak peek, so it's not a spoiler. But because of that dynamic with the mother, father, baby, Galactus, and the urgency it creates, it elevates this story to an 8 out of 10. Acting, I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. I love almost every single performance of this movie. I just kind of wish the Thing could have been done a little bit more accurate. I do like the Thing quite a bit, but I wanted more from him, and they didn't really give me a good performance from the Thing that I enjoyed. I mean, I like the Thing's performance, but I don't love his performance like I love the Human Torch, Invisible Woman, Mr. Fantastic, Galactus, Silver Surfer, and some other extras in there. Visuals, 9 out of 10. Again, aside from some really awkward CGI in specific moments, everything else is pure eye candy, great to look at, unbelievable. Rewatchability, this one might shock you, but I'm going with a 7.5. Like I said, people remember the ending more than anything else in the movie, and for me, they didn't really stick the landing here. I was a bit annoyed, eye rolling at the ending. I was not satisfied with the way they ended the conflict in this film. But that being said, I enjoyed everything else so much in this movie. Everything. From just them sitting in rooms talking, once again, coming up with that plan. What can we do to stop this guy? Loved it. Suspense? Yeah, that gets a 9 out of 10. The only reason is I think, once again, at the third act, where the movie gets towards its ending, it does become a little bit more predictable what's going to happen here. But before that, you have no idea. You were on the edge of your seat. Can these heroes make it out of here alive? Can they save their world, or are they doomed? Who knows? So the final grades. For the fan grade, I'm giving Fantastic Four First Steps an 8.5 out of 10. I think this is a very enjoyable film for the general public to just go out and see. If you're a fan of the MCU, you're going to enjoy this movie quite a bit. It's a breath of fresh air, and I think overall, audiences are going to love this film a lot. They may have some issues here and there, like I do, but I do think overall it'll be a positive reception for Fantastic Four First Steps. Critically, I'm also giving this an 8.5 out of 10 because, again, I think that critics will enjoy this movie with some minor issues here and there, as I've stated, but it will be a positive reception. I think that both fans and critics will agree this is a hit. Marvel has a hit on their hands, and this is one of the best MCU movies in a while. Phase 6 just started, and it started off with a bang. 8.5 out of 10 for Fantastic Four First Steps, and I have to say this is a must-watch in theaters. 100%. So that about wraps up my review, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe to see more. What was your favorite part of Fantastic Four First Steps? If you've seen it, comment down below. Try not to give too many spoilers away, though. And if you haven't seen the movie, let me know what you're most excited for about the movie and who your favorite member of the Fantastic Four is. That's all I got. Thanks for hearing me ramble on about movies. Until next time, my name is Nays. See ya.